Hey, this is like episode 7 or 8, 9. I don't know. The season has ended, but today we are going to be joined. Now, obviously, here we got to my right, Luke. Below me, we got Owens, but we are actually going to be joined by someone who knows a lot more of KU football than us, and that is Mike Vernon, a guy who he's, I guess, now a former journalist. He actually has a Substack called The Hearings, which is you should definitely subscribe. If you're listening to this podcast, definitely subscribe to it. But Mike Vernon will be joining us whenever he does. We'll be talking about KU football, but he's a guy who worked for the Bleacher Report, San Francisco Chronicle, former journalist, now a tech guy. But what are your thoughts? Season ended with a loss. Lance Leipold got, what is it, 7 years, $5 million a year. He's and a bunch of other things that you got to pay attention to. So let's get right into it. A lot to talk, even though the season's over. And, hey, we might be going to the Liberty or the Guarantee Bowl. Boys?
I'm pretty happy with how the season went. A little disappointed ending up with going 1-6 in the last 7. Not the best, but we got bowl eligible, which is way better than people thought going into the year. So overall, I'm pretty happy. Looking forward to what comes next for us, really.
Yeah, you really can't be more positive about how the season started. I would have been happy with about 4 or 5 wins this year, but we doubled our Vegas win total was 2.5. We doubled that, and we're somehow playing in a bowl game. It could have gone downhill when Jalen Daniels got hurt, but the fact that this team still rallied behind a backup just to get one more win that we needed, I was impressed by that. They didn't pull a 2019. So overall, I'm just ecstatic with how the season went.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting to see how the season went, where I feel like low-key it's going to be interesting what bowl game we end up in, because I don't know why, but it feels like they're just going to give us maybe the Liberty Bowl because we won the national championship and they want us to play either Kentucky or Mizzou. It just, I don't know. It feels like sometimes this season there's been a lot of stuff that like college football has. Yes, we need to continue this narrative, help KU out with the narrative of what's going on, that everything's turning around. Am I wrong? I mean, I'm loving it, but.
Oh, when Mizzou won over the weekend to finally get their 6th win and become bowl eligible, everybody for the NCAA was so happy because they just got their dream matchup. Like, that's what happened.
Yeah, dream matchup for sure for NCAA. I saw a lot of Big 12 Twitter accounts and just on Reddit, people seem to be excited about a potential KU Mizzou game. So it seems like that would be the most money that the NCAA can make off of it out of just a low-tier bowl game. So I really would be shocked if anything else happens. Put KU Mizzou in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis and just watch the cash flow in.
It has to be in Memphis, right? Like for it to be a Mizzou or Kentucky KU bowl game. Correct me if I'm wrong. It has to be in Memphis. It cannot.
That's where the Liberty Bowl is. So yeah.
Yeah, with the SEC tie-ins, that would be.
That's what I mean. The tie-ins, like we can only play them in the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah.
It would be a waste of money if they tried putting it somewhere else because that would be the easiest travel for both KU and Mizzou.
So with that being said, there's been some news on the transfer side of things, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What are your thoughts on like the team? Do you think we're going to see last year a wave of transfers, or are we going to see a wave of guys leave this year? I know we got a couple are coming in. What are your thoughts on transfers?
I think that we're going to pick up a few key transfers, maybe 1 or 2 big names. But really, anyone who transfers out is going to be on the 3 deep, like just guys not seeing reps. Gilliard, he threw me for a loop a little bit because he saw some action. He was on the 2 deep for linebackers. But I really don't see too many guys moving out that were being productive this year because we're just not losing a ton of people.
Yeah, I think the transfer portal this year is just going to be about plugging up the immediate holes that we have in our roster. If there's anybody that can come in and play right away now, But other than that, it's just going to be about hitting the recruiting trail hard, getting a good freshman class for next season. A bowl game goes a long way with that, obviously. But getting a good class in for next year, that's what Lance is probably going to turn most of his energy towards.
Well, I know we just lost Edwin White as he's going to be transferring. He was a safety who played 3 games this past year, and he earned a red shirt because he only played 3 games, and he was a guy that actually signed with KU's Les Miles. And I actually do want to hear thoughts about the Les Miles stuff from Mike Vernon because he alluded to it on his hearings, one of his hearings articles. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely going to be interesting seeing what's going to happen because we got Logan Brown coming in, the 5-star offensive tackle from Wisconsin. But not much news except, Stephen McBride. He was somebody who transferred that, nobody talked about him transferring midseason. We didn't even talk about him transferring midseason, McBride. Okay. And because he was upset with a backup Z. And I want to hear your thoughts. Okay. And also Gavin Potter left. I forgot. I don't know what happened, where Gavin Potter's going. So let's hear your thoughts. Anybody else you think we could lose? Kai Thomas?
Kai Thomas, that's an interesting one because it really depends on the Highshaw injury. He didn't see a ton of playing time, but he already used his one-time transfer without sitting out. So wherever he goes, he's here, and then it's his senior year, and that's it. As far as I know, the whole COVID year thing is messing me up a little bit. But I am so excited about the 5-star from Wisconsin. I really wasn't excited about it until a few days ago. I was like, Wisconsin got a new head coach. So the guy recruiting him left, and that's when you see a lot more transfers happen. So I don't know if it was he's not getting as much playing time as he wanted, but I think it was more the coaching situation than anything else, which I like to hear.
I mean, yeah, that's they fired their coach mid-season when it led to instability, and you don't want to be playing football at an unstable program, especially one like Wisconsin. So I think it was more of the coaching side than the entirety of playing time side. But, as far as losing Gavin Potter and Stephen McBride, we're okay with losing those guys because we have other guys that are filling in. We have better players that right now that are better. But as far as Kai Thomas,
John Haddle died.
Oh yeah, I saw that earlier today. KU legend, rest in peace. But,
continue your train of thought.
Before the Kai Thomas, I don't think he's going to transfer because. As we were talking about the other day on the podcast, we don't know what the high shot injury is looking like. And even if he comes back, is he still going to be the same? And Kai Thomas, at least,
I'm adding that to the list.
He could still get some carries, but I just don't think we're going to have many guys leaving the program that weren't key productive members.
I mean, Kai Thomas could definitely show up and be the power back near the goal line. He's looks stronger and more physical than Devin Neal and Savion Morrison. Mm-hmm. So definitely that could just be his role is, who was the New England running back from
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, LeGarrette Blount. Yeah, that Kai Thomas are LeGarrette Blount. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I just don't see him leaving. I just don't see any key player leaving this year.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's just going to be guys who were salty about their lack of minutes. And besides that, I think, we got ourselves good players this year and guys who are committed to the program. I think that's the big thing, just commitment to the program and fully buying into what we believe in. How many guys are leaving draft wise? Because I know Kenny, because it's very complicated with the COVID years and stuff. So is Kenny able to stay? Is who else is leaving?
I saw someone say that Kenny Logan might be staying on Twitter, but I thought this was his last year no matter what.
He's the same age as me. We were freshmen.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We had class together freshman year. When he was a true freshman, we had the acting class together.
Yeah, he never redshirted, so I'm pretty sure this was his 5th year and he's done. But he was I think, tied for 8th in all of college football this year in solo tackles. So some team's going to take a shot on him.
Hold up, Owens. And here we are. We're now joined by our guest, Mike Vernon, former journalist, now tech guy, and the writer of The Hearings. Obviously, if you're a KU fan, you've been reading it. What up, Mike? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I think I'll do some really, really cool stuff and love seeing some J School students making the best of like the opportunities. And I'm just looking at all those posters behind Luke and got a little distracted. So let's do this thing.
Hey, so by the way, your Substack has been such a great read from all three of us. I think we've all talked about it, just mentioning things we've read about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, let's do some fun, and there's some other cool stuff you can play around with on that platform. So pretty excited to see, and stop getting myself in trouble with like 240 characters or whatever the limit is on Twitter. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. It's been fun.
So straight up. So we wanted to get right into. We have a few questions. I think Luke and Owens will switch up. Right now they're muted, but I think Luke and Owens, they came up with some questions. I think Owens, you wanted to ask what's the opinion, Mike's opinion on the season. If you wanted to elaborate on the question before.
Someone elaborate. Are we talking football or basketball?
We're talking football.
Okay. All right. So we're wondering opinion on this year's football season. I mean, it's been pretty awesome. You can't, let's be reasonable here about expectations even after the 5-0 start. But for me, the biggest thing has been how much fun I've had watching with my friends who are alums here in Los Angeles. And I've never had that before. We're on Saturdays getting together with Jayhawks and watching the game, even super early in the morning. That's been, for me personally, that's been so fun. Opinions on the team this season, tons of progress being made. You could even see against K-State that they weren't physically dominated in this game in the rain in Manhattan at night when the Wildcats were all jacked up. That was pretty impressive. So I'm really impressed with how they've come along physically, how they've developed some playmakers. Some of the things that have frustrated me are, I think when Leipold came here in the first season, we really felt like we were watching a disciplined team. I feel like some of that has gone away. There's been more penalties than I would have expected, some mental mistakes, some special teams mistakes. Not the most disciplined team ever. So that's been a bit surprising. But, I mean, it's been really impressive. They're going bowling. No matter what, when you hired Leipold, someone said, would you take a bowl in 4 years? You would take that. We got it in the second year. So all in all, this has been a huge step forward and a ton of reason to be optimistic about next season too, which when's the last time we had that? It's been more than a decade, so pretty sweet.
One question about the bowl games. If you name, besides obviously Mizzou, who else do you think would be a good matchup for us to play in a bowl game?
Ooh, good matchup. As far as entertainment or as far as winning the game?
Let's go with both. Winning the game and then entertainment.
All right. I think the Liberty Bowl against Kentucky would be pretty fun as well. Anytime KU plays Kentucky, people get jacked up. And I think we saw that against Duke in kind of a similar fashion. I'm a bit concerned as to how physical Kentucky can be, and they had some injury issues this year. I mean, they're a quality team. Who else is in that range? Florida's a big name. I don't want to play Arkansas. Those guys are good up front. So, and I haven't done that much research on potential opponents. I think Kentucky would be really, really fun if you're talking about the Liberty Bowl against the SEC. Looking at the Big Ten, Wisconsin is 6-6. They just hired Fickle. They're probably excited. However, I think Leipold wouldn't mind going against Wisconsin. He's got a lot of ties to the school. I think if there were one job of any out there this offseason that had his attention, it was Wisconsin. So that would be the Phoenix Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I think that would be a good time. I doubt Minnesota would get there. So I'll say Wisconsin. Also, you get like some geographic ties. Wisconsin, Madison, KU, they feel kind of similar. And I've had fun in Madison before. So that would be, I think that'd be a pretty fun one. I haven't seen the other projections of like what it would be if KU ends up in Dallas, but I'm kind of focusing on the Big Ten and SEC schools.
Oh yeah, 100%. As far as like winnable games, I agree. I think Wisconsin, since they don't really have a coach and they're in a period of transition, that's the more winnable game. And I don't want to play Florida or Arkansas. And Kentucky, it'd be fun, but again, I still don't think we'd win just because they just have better athletes than we do.
Kentucky's had some pretty good moments this year. You know, losing by 10 to Georgia is pretty impressive.
Ole Miss,
they
played a really good game.
Yeah, they beat Florida like when they were healthier. So, Kentucky would be, I think, tough. It would be fun though. Stoops is a good coach. So, I don't know. I haven't watched Missouri really play either outside of that game that they blew, and I was kind of laughing at them. But I think KU would have a pretty solid shot against Mizzou.
I think Mizzou's the most entertaining and the most winnable. But obviously, besides that, I don't know where else they would go, but there is other options.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Liberty Bowl in order of like likelihood. I'd say Liberty Bowl against an SEC school, Guaranteed Rate Bowl against a Big Ten school, and then one of those two Dallas Bowls. I get them mixed up, so I'm not going to say it and be wrong.
I think it's the Armed Forces and First Responders.
That's right. Yeah, I get them mixed up. Like they're kind of similar there. So I'm gonna say that's a lot less likely. So we'll stick with Phoenix or Memphis right now.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about getting the Guaranteed Rate Bowl out in Phoenix just because I don't think KU fans will travel as well out there. I think we'll travel pretty well because it's our first bowl in 13 years. But man, I'm all in on this Liberty Bowl. What are your thoughts on that?
Crowd. I mean, if you're playing Missouri, those tickets are going to sell. And my impression has been that the Liberty Bowl wants that to happen. So everyone believes that. So crowd-wise, that's the top option. But Phoenix in December is not bad, guys. Phoenix in December is pretty fun. You can play golf. Like, just as far as any of the locations go, of the likely spots, Dallas, Phoenix, Memphis, Phoenix is the most attractive city location for a good weekend. Scottsdale is pretty fun if you've gone out in Scottsdale. That's cool. I don't know that, KU, Minnesota draws that well. Maybe Wisconsin would. There'll be a ton of Wisconsin fans that travel too. So, I mean, Memphis is obviously going to be the number one draw if it's Missouri. It won't even be comparable to the rest. So, Phoenix, I think there'd be a nice showing, but nothing crazy. It's also nothing to get that worried about. I don't think it's end of the world if there's a medium-sized KU crowd at Chase Field in downtown Arizona.
So, pivoting back to the season, I wanted, with the bowl games and everything, that's great. We just, we need to win the game. And something with this team, we started off with a hot 5-0 start, and then obviously we got Daniels hurt. But I want to hear your opinion. What do you think were, I guess, the highs and lows in this season? Because we lost Daniel Highshaw, And as someone who's from Baltimore, Maryland, and witnessed Dennis Pitta's career be ruined over hip injuries, I'm quite scared over potentially never seeing High Shot play again if it's another hip injury, as we haven't really been told. I feel like losing High Shot, Daniels getting hurt, and then becoming a more sloppy team were kind of some elements that led to our skid that we had after such a blistering hot start. What was your opinion on that? What were some factors that culminated?
Yeah, we're doing highs and lows.
Yeah, I get highs and lows.
Cool. I mean, that works. And I love the way I said Baltimore. Can you say it one more time? Can you do it again?
Baltimore.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the high of the season was like 6 a.m. October 8th, Saturday, the morning of college game day. And when I woke up, I guess it was 6 a.m. Pacific. So I wake up and I just see like this beautiful crowd on the hill. That I don't even care. I don't care. That was so cool. It was awesome. I felt a lot of pride in the team at that point, in the school and the university. And you could just feel everyone being aware of how bad it was and how the kind of response I think the community wants and was aware of. It's rare you kind of get those moments where everyone's like, okay, like we're doing this. We're all going to go show up and have a great crowd. That was pretty exciting. I would say the Duke win was pretty fun too. The Duke win, because at that point, you're what? You're 3-0. I hit my over 2.5 bet for the season, and that was the first game where Pack the Booth happened, and that was a pretty exciting time as well. The lows, Jalen getting hurt was a bummer, but I would say also beating Oklahoma State was a high. I think the first half against Baylor was pretty bad when it was 28-3. Like that was, for me, if we're talking about a specific moment where it's just like, what happened? Other teams have caught up. They figured KU out, and KU hasn't been able to adjust. I'm like questioning a lot of things at that point at 5 wins. They came back and played great after halftime. So that one didn't linger too much as far as a low goes. The Texas game was disappointing, but if you get Texas when they're on, that's just what's going to happen. So I guess I'll say that the stretch between Oklahoma and Baylor in the first half of Baylor, where it looked like things were coming unglued a bit, and you started to question, where does win number 6 come from? That was disappointing. They quickly righted that ship, though. Second half against Baylor, and then the Oak State game. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
So do you think part of the reason we slip, I said for a long time, part of the reason we started to slip was we just could not get started in the first half. It even showed in a lot of the wins we had, like a couple of the wins we had where we were a second half team. We would put ourselves in a hole and then we'd come back and win the game. But then it became that we just dug ourselves into too big of holes and too little too late. Our team started, start to get the wheel spinning.
I mean, it certainly caught him a couple times. You could say TCU, definitely Oklahoma, definitely Baylor. Really, though, I think injuries were a huge. Like this team was beat up. Jalen Daniels goes down. You lose High Shot, so you basically lose your best quarterback, and at that time, your best running back. Kobe Bryant was hurt, so you have an all Big 12 cornerback out. And Luke Grimm didn't play one of those games. I mean, that's a beat-up football team. And everyone gets beat up. Everyone's hurt. That's pretty bad. That's like your best quarterback, running back, wide receiver in secondary player. So it's hard to come back from that. The other thing is the novelty of the offense wore off a little bit, I think. Again, defenses started to figure it out. Iowa State maybe gave the recipe for that a bit, that 14-11 win. And then Jalen got hurt. Jason Bean, really fast, but I think it took him a while to get his confidence up. Also, like, this whole offense is based on run pass option and movement, the threat of the QB run. And KU kind of lost that for a bit when Bean didn't seem to want to take some hits early on. So I'm just going to say, like, teams caught up and injuries hurt the way that, like, they could kind of hit that second and third gear of, throwing in different curveballs, I guess you could say, to a defense that understands them. Instead, you're trying to get backups caught up to speed. Maybe that's normal. KU doesn't have the depth, the margin of error to do that. So, that's one other thing.
So, yeah, no, I actually said in the past that this team reminded me of the military schools, Army, Navy, how they have to have the 290 guys, the 280 guys as offensive linemen, and you got to rely on speed and be these run-dominant teams because you don't have the depth or the size to match up with the other teams. And I had said all season long, I was like, it just really reminds me of, the Naval Academy, just haven't seen them play it a lot growing up. Do you have any insight on Daniel Highshaw, or is that just being really kept close to the chest?
I don't have insight. I haven't asked. I don't have insight. It was a pretty serious injury, and I decided to not weigh in. If I found out, I'm sure I'd say something, and I was sure of it. But it's kind of messing with kids on the team, so try to stay away from it. The gain isn't that much for me. I don't know what it could be for him. So that's my long-winded excuse of saying I don't know.
Thank you. Luke Owens, you got anything to ask?
Yeah, I got one more question. So with the transfer portal, are we thinking we're going to get the same kind of load that we got last year where we got impact guys coming in right away? Or are you just kind of thinking we're going to have just kind of focus more on high school recruiting right now?
I don't know this for a fact. My hunch is going to be that they're going to hit the portal pretty hard. You saw them already do it once. You've seen it in the way that they're recruiting this year. They don't have a ton of guys committed. And if I were on this staff, if I were in charge of recruiting, I'd probably hit the portal pretty hard too. You got some momentum. You got the number one transfer, I guess, in the class right now from Wisconsin, the big O lineman. I think they've got some studs coming in town this weekend. We're on November 30th now. I think there's some transfer portal guys that are quietly visiting, and they like keeping that quiet. So I would expect that. I think the staff is going pretty hard at transfers without being told that explicitly. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves. Again, that's what I would do, and it's what they did last year, and it worked. They did a pretty good job of identifying impact players through the portal. So I'm excited to see who else they bring in. Right now, Key's in a good spot for that. I think their NIL's in a good spot. Lance is staying. They've got momentum, a ton of returning talent. I'd hit that portal hard.
Yeah, I saw that Alabama has a second string O lineman in the portal, so I'd give my pinky toe for that.
Yeah, we want some Bama players. Yeah,
I'll take another Dalen Charlotte, but throw him at O line.
Yeah, I think there's an SEC guy that might be in town this week at a skill position spot, but I don't think the player wants that out there, and I'll try to respect that and not screw anything up. So, let's bring in some SEC guys. I'm excited.
Do you think any guys will leave KU? Like I said that Jason Bean was auditioning for his a new starting job somewhere potentially, or somebody else could be looking at, because we saw already Edwin White and Stephen McBride both transfer, and Gavin Potter.
Yeah. KU's going to lose some guys. It's only natural, especially with, again, I think a higher level of talent coming in. The staff staying together should be okay, but also you're going to get some other schools poking around at KU's studs, at your studs. I think there's been some interest in Jalen Daniels, though I think KU has fended that off pretty well. So sounds like that's okay. I think when maybe Lance was in, we didn't know about his future. There were some questions, and teams are trying to poke around and see. He's from the West Coast. Why not take a look? But we saw today. It was reported that Eric Gilliard, who's a good player, I think is going back in the portal. So that's a loss for KU. I expect KU to probably lose some more guys. It's only natural. It's going to happen, especially when you're KU and maybe you got some extra eyes on you this year. Guys are going to capitalize on that. Only natural, and our staff is going to do the exact same thing. But they better not lose Jalen. That would suck. Jason Bean, Bryson, at Bryce Strick on Twitter. I mean, he knows what's going on with those players, and he said that Bean is opting to not play football. It sounds like that he's done. He might be done with college. I see a strong reaction there. So, you're always not interested until someone comes in with a bag. So that could get him. I think he's good enough certainly to do that. We saw it.
I thought he'd go to a mid-major. I honestly thought he earned himself enough to at least get a shot to go to another Texas school or something. But I guess quit football.
I'm going to trust what Bryson said, but you're never really done until that year starts, especially with NIL. So yeah, mid-major, and I mean, gosh, you hope KU could keep him. They better have him throw a pass in the bowl game, right?
Yeah.
Come on, he's got to line up at receiver and throw a pass.
Yeah, we're gonna get a double pass for sure.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Yeah, Daniels the Bean or Bean to Daniels.
Yes.
Daniels
Come
to
on.
Bean.
Daniels to Bean to Lachlan. Let's get a triple pass in there.
That'd be awesome. Flea flicker.
Casey, yeah. I'm in. I'm all in.
Quick question:
yeah.
Do you know what school poked around at Daniels? Was it actual Pac-12s or was it more West? Western.
I'll say the rumor was Pac-12. I don't know it for a fact, so I'm not going to share that. The rumor was Pac-12.
Luke, you got any questions?
Didn't we have some stuff about the whole Les Miles thing, Ciro?
So you alluded. Okay, so I wrote my first 2 years here at KU 3 years ago, or 3 years ago. So my freshman sophomore year, Les Miles was here, and I took a very interest in it because I was just thinking, why would Les Miles want to come here?
It's fascinating.
It's so fascinating. They need to make a 30 for 30. Why the hell did Les Miles end up in Kansas? Then you go back. Oh, wait, Jeff Long and him. I think it was University of Michigan, right? They were buddies or something in college. And I say this jokingly, and I don't know if I'm serious when I say it, but sometimes I feel like I'm serious. People don't realize that a lot. Jalen Daniels, Les Miles recruit. Kenny Logan, Les Miles recruit. A few guys who are actually Marcus Harris, who's at Auburn now, and a few other guys who have left KU are having some success were Les Miles guys. And I'm like, if Les Miles stayed, maybe, we might have made a bowl game. Team might have looked different. It would have been a lot more Louisiana guys. And now what, and you alluded to in one of your Substack posts about Les Miles and the Jeff Long. What's your take on that whole situation? We paid the money. We brought Les Miles in. It was kind of Les Miles' retirement home. What's your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the way you brought that up because I think a lot of people will remember some of the strange press conferences or anecdotes that came up about, it didn't seem like he was firing on all cylinders. But, people I think at LSU kind of said that's how Les Miles is. I don't know. He did a good job of getting the roster back to a full roster, actually. Getting the roster back to full. He recruited high school players. He didn't take the shortcuts. Like, you could be a little scared about the portal in this staff because, again, are you bringing in, enough freshmen every year at Big KU in the past? I think I trust the staff enough for it to be fine. Like, this is how programs act now. So I do think Les did some of the right things for KU to be able to bring someone else in and then elevate it. I'm not sure that would have happened with Les. What really happened and really started like my whole scooping the Substack journey was when the offensive coordinator, Brett Dearman, left for Middle Tennessee State. And that was just very strange. Do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, but then it's you're the whole offensive coordinator, because then we also hired another offensive coordinator who never became our offensive coordinator. Just continue. Yeah. I'm just getting giddy listening to you.
No, it was really weird, and it got to a point where if you start asking some questions like what's going on with KU football, and some people would start responding with some pretty specific stuff to like in DMs and someone who knew someone, and I just, instead of ignoring people, I asked a lot of follow-up questions. And when fans and alumni and people around the program are that upset, they're probably going to talk. And what I had learned was donors in general, they're not all the same. Some people are like, the donors want blank. They're not, the donors are not one unified group. However, I think enough prominent large donors to athletics were upset with Jeff Long or weren't confident. And they had expressed that to the chancellor, I'd heard. And once you lose the donors as an AD, there's not much you can do. So he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way from the sounds of it. I don't know that he had the best relationship with Bill Self. Like, your job as an AD at KU is to raise money and keep Self happy for the most part. Fixing football is really hard, but like those are the two. That's what'll keep Schanzinger in a job for a really long time. The previous AD before Jeff Long. So I think he had lost both of those. The donors expressed it, and it was a little bit upsetting to me at the time that we hadn't, as a fan, as someone from home, as someone who cares about KU, I don't feel like we had heard the right questions being asked of Long and Les Miles. And it seemed like something was up, and everyone was kind of making it seem like it wasn't. With Les, again, a lot of questions about the staff not having confidence in him at that point, and then the donors not having confidence in Jeff. So it was a long sequence of things, but it seemed pretty messy to me at the time. Like, I forgot about that Michigan offensive, the old guy from Michigan who they brought in to be OC. Like, what was going on? It was really weird. I don't entirely know, but it seemed like confidence was wavering at that point, and that's not a good thing. And changes had to be made. They were, and KU's next two decisions were really good. And that was hiring Travis Goff and hiring Lance Leipold.
I have a question from here. With Les Miles and Jeff Long, do you think I would never, whatever, it's unacceptable what Les Miles did, and it's, shame on.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because what it was, Les Miles wanted big-breasted blonde girls around his team or whatever at LSU. He wanted his the girls who staffed his team or something like that. And do you think maybe donors or something, because that had been swept under the rug? Do you think maybe there was some collusion that somebody dusted off a file and was just like, here you go. Because at the same
LSU,
time,
I think that was the result of a long internal investigation from LSU. I guess if that's how you were going to do it, that wouldn't be the worst way to go if someone needs to get that done. But I think that I would have to go Google it. I think that was a result of an investigation that had already kind of been going on. So
I'm pretty sure if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure they told Les Miles that he could not talk to the woman in question anymore, that he wasn't allowed to have contact with her. I think it was the year before he got fired or the year that he ended up getting fired. I think that's what happened. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. Either way, I think there were some pretty serious, there were serious allegations. There was an investigation into the football program, and the timing is weirdly convenient for KU, but I'm not going to say those investigations don't happen that fast. So my hunch is that was over a longer period of time. But I don't think KU was shy to use it at the same time, but also they were right to use it as well. So
it's just weird because Devin Neal, Les Miles recruit. A lot of basically all of our best players, Les Miles recruits. All the guys who went from high school to stay here, all Les Miles recruit. So my question was it was weird because it felt like he also never had a shot. There was one or two games where we kind of had it, and then also they were making it. They were also acting like we were selling out the football stadium like we did this year, but it was really not being sold out. They're like, "Oh my god, we had the biggest growth of attendance that year." I was like,
5,000. It was bad.
It was bad. But I just want to hear just want to see if you might elaborate. What is some of the weird stuff you might have heard during this era that you haven't really seen in other football programs since or before?
I mean, there's been a ton of absurd things that have happened in the last decade. With Les, I actually published a letter from some of the JUCO coaches in state about some of the strange encounters they had with Les Miles, and that he spoke and was no one could follow what he was saying, and it was really bad. Again, they seemed to have the note. I think there were two notes, and it indicated to me that everyone when they would hear, most people when they'd hear Les talk would be like, "What the hell's going on?" And that's not good. Even if that's his personality, the OC leaving and then hiring his old buddy was weird to me. There were indications that, again, I think some talented younger people in the coaching world were losing confidence. And that's and again, some of the local Kansas coaches in the high school and JUCO ranks seem to reflect that as well. Their interactions were strange, or sounded strange. I ended up deleting that post because it was getting a whole lot of people in trouble, and I don't want to get people in trouble. That's not what I'm doing. So I don't remember the exact wordage, but it was this is a very strange conversation. He spoke and was repetitive, and
I've heard that
remember the right players. I don't know. I certainly I think those allegations have been thrown around on Twitter, but that's a really hard thing to say confidently, and it's really not fair unless you know. So I don't know. That's the answer. I can't say for sure one way or the other. But I think he might have been past his prime as a football coach. That's pretty clear. Well past his prime. And again, though, he, like you said, he got some of the right players together. With the LSU report, people losing confidence, a change had to be made. But certainly, I've seen the same things on Twitter and heard it suggested, but no one has said for sure. And I feel like someone would have caught wind of that
Yeah, I just know that not even from Twitter, but from within like the school. Just people who like you said, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but people who've been around the school have just said like he wasn't there, and very similar to, again, I don't want to throw anything, but just people who are sick with when they get older, just like when you just start you lose yourself mentally.
Yeah,
and
Les is almost 70, and I think a lot of people wondered that kind of stuff. So I don't know for sure, but certainly there was some concern about it. Like that's a major thing to be concerned about for fans.
Definitely.
That's weird.
Definitely.
That's unusual.
I just thought the whole Les thing was weird, and also
it was crazy. Yeah.
Shout out Carter Stanley. We're a pro Carter Stanley
what
show
a stud.
here. Yeah.
He held it down. Never got a fair
really
shot, and he held it down.
He really did. He did not get a fair shot. He didn't get tons of blank time. And I remember that dude lowering his head and running into people and fire the team
He
up.
got benched for Peyton Bender. Like, come on.
What's going on? Was that Les?
No, that was David Beatty.
80. Yeah, there's been some bizarre stuff over the years from Turner Gill. Charlie Weiss was a disaster.
Oh.
Worst.
And Beatty, I don't think was like a bad guy or anything, but he definitely had some questionable decisions.
Out of his depth.
Figure out timeouts, play calling, false starts. Like that was just so simple. That was a mess. And then, you got an NFL tight end in Jay Sternberger who didn't play and then was able to go to A&M and then the NFL. Like, I kind of remember being like, why didn't this guy play at KU?
He just didn't. And then Ryan Willis and Montel Kozart both transferring and
weird.
starting at Boise State and BT. What? How did that happen? It was just a whole lot of questionable
decisions. It is a comedy of errors.
Did not know Sternberger went to KU. I'm so upset.
He did, yeah.
He's a legend. He's fun to, he'll respond on Twitter and stuff, which I've gotten to learn over the years. And he still watches KU and talks really fondly about it. So get Jace on the show.
Yeah, no, that's definitely somebody next to hit up. All right, Luke and Owen, do you have any last questions before we let Mike go? Thank you for taking your time out of your day, Mike, for this.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
What do
y'all want to know? What are you curious about? Yeah.
I've picked you apart right now. I've got nothing else unless you just want to go into a dark place.
Say that Les Miles was sick, man. I don't know. Like, fans are concerned. I don't know that. Like, there's just no way. There's no way. But I do appreciate your question was good. You wouldn't let me. You did the right thing.
I just wanted to see if I could get anything else.
No, you did the right thing.
Before we let you go, I have to give you shit about the Remy Martin thing. Oh my god, that was just that was a ride last year. Like that.
It was a ride.
Like I just remember getting a text. I'm sitting in Allen Fieldhouse. Someone texted me. He's like, "Yo, Vern just dropped this saying that he might be done," and I was like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me! It's all over." But man,
thank God that wasn't the case.
Thank God that was not right.
It's not about me, but I saved the season. Like, I'm telling you, it was a clumsy wording of the tweet because I literally am saying, like, I've been told, he was telling people he was done, but my hearing was that there's hope it could be worked out. And it totally got, I worded it like in the way that I know why that happened. It was poor wording. However, I think I remain confident that there was some tension. Bill Self isn't a guy that's going to love a player not playing through pain in the regular season, saying just wait till March. Like, what have we seen from Bill Self, who ends every practice with Big 12 champs, that makes us think that he'd be okay with that? Like that's just not normal. However, everyone got their act together and they got it done. So it doesn't matter. But I still people are like, you said Remy Martin would never play for KU again. I'm like, it's not what I said literally, but I understand why it was interpreted that way, and that was a mistake on my part.
It saved the season. That's all that matters at this point.
It saved the season together.
Hey, Remy still comes around, so he must remember. Yeah, I bumped into him because I've been covering KU football for KUJH. And,
sweet.
And I've seen him up in the elevator. We've bumped into a few times, and just my way of breaking the ice is just cracking jokes. If anyone says anything, I just like try to make a joke, make everyone laugh. So my claim to fame is like I got like a good elbow bump from him after I made him laugh. So
what'd you like, Mike Vernon? Fuck that one up.
No. Yeah, he said something about my camera, and I don't even know what I said. I said something about winging it. I don't know. It was just it was flash in the pan magic right there.
Hey, that's awesome. He's still around, and that's going to show you that he likes Lawrence and KU, and I wasn't trying to say the opposite, but also these things happen in a season. And I think I should have done a better job of realizing that, like, this is intense and emotional for 30 or so games with young people and a coach who is demanding, and rightfully so. So, like, it's pretty natural that things are going to bubble up. That one bubbled, I think. I'd heard he said the words like, "I'm done," but what does that mean? And Self kind of said he told him to shut it down and wasn't sure he would come back. So I still eat a lot of shit for it. It's pretty funny. I'm glad you brought it up. Like it's an elephant in the room. Like, so I should also let it go a little bit more. I'm like, look, it happened. I worded it bad. It's a lesson learned for sure. Substack will help.
You're ingrained in KU Twitter history lore forever.
I know. That is one people are gonna remember. If Twitter dies, that one's on the list.
All right, Mike. Thank you so much for spending 45 minutes with us. It was awesome. I think we learned so much, and it didn't even like time flew. It was just genuinely just an enjoyment. I don't know. I assume I speak for the other two guys, but thank you so much.
Oh, it was a pleasure. We've been excited for it all week.
Yeah, I'm really glad, and I love again seeing J School students do their own thing, get the experience. I saw the YouTube channel. Y'all got some serious views. That's really impressive, and you should be proud of it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. They don't even. They're just like my buddies, and they just love KU football. And I just shot them the idea, and they're really stoked with it. And it's just been something I'm running with. As I told you, it's a little side project because I'm more of an NBA guy. So it's just just keep trying to find things. You just doing what you love.
Hey, absolutely. The hearings are a side project. The Substack's a side project for me, but we've got well over 1,000 people at this point, and subscribe. The hearings.substack. Hit up your group text. If you're still here and still watching this, you're like, yo, subscribe to this. I want it in group text. I want it in the KU group text. That's it. That's my ask.
Yeah, I'll definitely have your Substack put down below as well as your Twitter. Thank you so much, Mike.
I appreciate that. Yeah, y'all have a great one.
You too, man. Take care. Rock, stay hot, buddy.
Easy.